I'm tired of answering questions about him. We came back. It worked out. Kuzi's got a, he's got a he's got a forecheck. Let's start with that.
There are a lot of things that Rick Tocchet wanted to say there, as you could tell, but let's start with the basic of forechecking. I don't even know what to say about this player at this point, just because we've been talking about it for a while. He had the 2 game healthy scratch, and you think to yourself, okay, this is the wake up call. This is going to send the message. He's going to be shot out of a cannon the next game. Maybe he looked better in that first game back than he had before, but it's same song and dance with Andrei Kuzmenko last night.
Well, I think Ray Ferraro put it best on the broadcast last night. He's just lacking confidence with his finishing. You look at the power play sort of opportunity he had where he had the puck right in the slot, and instead of firing it right away, knowing he has the type of shot that can beat a goalie from that distance, he tries to make the extra move and get stripped from the puck. I'll say this. He's also been really unfortunate not to at least get a point here or there, just based off the number of scoring chances that he was involved in, even outside of the one that he fumbled in trying to make the extra move. He had good looks himself. He also set up a couple of good looks as well. I mean, setting up Miller right in front of the net on the power play. And that's tough because when you're an offensive player who's struggling for confidence, you just need the production to start coming to feel better about yourself. So it sucks that even when he is generating chances, they just somehow aren't ending up in the back of the net when they usually do. But this is also the types of stretches that one-dimensional offensive players sometimes go through, where if you're a versatile two-way type forward, when you struggle offensively, it's not as noticeable because you're at least still driving play, you're involved in the forecheck, maybe you're part of the penalty kill, you're able to win board battles, help out defensively, just find other ways to contribute aside from the score sheet. The problem with Kuzmenko is he is one-dimensional, and the way I look at it right now is I would almost look at sheltering him at 5-on-5, especially with the way Nils Höglander is going. He should be in the top 6 now. That was a valiant performance by him in the third period. Great fit on the Miller line. And if that's the case, maybe you have to bump Kuzmenko down to the 4th line and then just keep him on power play 1, because I don't see another obvious solution to plug into the first unit power play. And that's how you're going to have to work out of the funk. I'm not too worried about the offense because at some point it's going to come back. This is what happens. He's a type of player that can be streaky. I really think that once he starts to get a few in, that you'll see him rattle off a stretch where he's above a point per game. But for me, the bigger picture, or I guess the medium-term concern, is that he just doesn't seem like a Rick Tocchet player in the sense of all the other parts of the game. Tocchet doesn't seem to trust him, doesn't seem to want to use him in a high leverage role. And that is problematic for me.
I had to sneeze there, but you look at when they extended him, right? It was like right before they hired Rick Tocchet. If you recall, it was like right around the time they hired Rick Tocchet. And look, obviously Tocchet didn't know that he wasn't going to be the kind of player he would want to play with or have in his lineup. But man, it just, with everybody in that organization now, it seems from top to bottom, management to the coaching staff is on the same page, and it hasn't been that way for a while. It feels like they just missed Kuzmenko. Like they're all on the same page now, but they weren't on the same page when they extended Andrei Kuzmenko. So it feels like they just missed. They just missed the mark of Tocchet coming in and saying, don't extend this guy, trade him at the trade deadline. Like you have to think if Tocchet had that month with them without an extension, trade deadline in February, he would have said, get rid of this guy. I don't want him beyond this year.
And one of the things that's really obvious, sorry, Harm, he's just passing up prime, shooting opportunities. It's like he gets hesitant. There was one play kind of on the power play last night where he walked in off the blue line and tried to, I think, either toe drag or go wide and then take it back in. He's just hesitant. And I mentioned a couple of weeks back, like when he has the puck, he kind of stops moving his feet, and it's so easy for defenders to kind of close in on him because he's just stuck in quicksand. And to me, seems kind of like a confidence issue, that he's just overthinking things. And he's got a good shot. He can beat goalies from distance. You know, he needs to start using that more. And he's actually shooting a little less this year. I was looking at his shots per game. He's down to 1.55. I think last year was like 1.77. So not, you know, that much different, but we all knew the shooting percentage was going to regress this year. But I think some of the people like in the summer were talking about him were hoping that his shot rate would actually go up, and it hasn't so far.
And I think the thing that's most troubling with Kuzmenko is he's here next year too. So if it's not a player Tocchet feels like he can win with, and Jeff Patterson wrote about this over at CanucksArmy this morning, you need to find some solution, because you can't have this guy toiling on your fourth line forever. Although I do agree with you that has to be the way to try to get him back. Because look, we've heard every coach say it. Back to Boudreau. Boudreau was talking about Nils Höglander when he said it, but we've heard every coach say it, that if you're going to score 40 goals, yeah, it's fine. You can get some leeway, not being great defensively. But if you're going to be a streaky scorer, or you're not going to score and you're not going to help the team offensively, and you can't defend, well, all of a sudden you're a liability. Like Jay Beagle, calling him Jay Beagle, which I've been doing recently, that's a compliment at this point, because Jay Beagle was good defensively. Andrei Kuzmenko's not that right now. I don't even know what the comparable is for Andrei Kuzmenko right now.
He's going to turn it around offensively.
And I think I agree with you that when we answer this question, the title of the show of what should the Canucks do with Andrei Kuzmenko, would you be surprised if they scratch him next game? I wouldn't be surprised, but I think I agree with you. Maybe when I came into this studio today, I thought they're going to scratch him next game, and I think that's the right move. But then I kind of talked to you about it more, and I think you're right that the way to get him going, and when we answer the question of what should the Canucks do with Andrei Kuzmenko, you play him in those sheltered minutes at 5-on-5. You put him on the first power play unit. You let him get his confidence back in the areas that he's going to succeed. He's not going to hurt you in those sheltered minutes. Now, it's also crucial, and we'll switch to a more positive note, that Nils Höglander last night looked great. Dakota Joshua looked great. But then again, it comes to the question of, okay, so Elias Pettersson's line mates are now, and we haven't even talked about Ilya Mikheyev, the line mates are now Sam Lafferty and Dakota Joshua, and that's who Elias Pettersson is looking the most effective with. I think we're going to see team day off today, so no practice. I think we are going to see a huge juggling of the lineup tomorrow at morning skate. I think it's going to be a big change, and I think what we're going to see is either a scratch for Kuzmenko or him on the fourth line.
Yeah, I mean, one last thing on Kuzmenko, you've got to make sure you manage the relationship, because as you mentioned, you have him beyond the season. So if you are too hard on him and are constantly scratching him, you're at a certain point going to turn the player off, and you're not going to get the same level of buy-in that's necessary for him to actually make progress in some of these areas, which it is conceivable that he can improve in some of these departments, because even though he's an older player, this is still only his second NHL season. So it takes time to make some of those adjustments. And that's why, to me, even just for the sake of the first power play unit, I don't know who else would figure on that unit, because I don't love the idea of Hronek as a second defenseman being the medium-term answer there. And I don't think there's a great power play forward that stands up from the second unit that you can naturally promote higher. And then, of course, what you alluded to in terms of Höglander, I mean, he was unbelievable in that third period. Just the tenaciousness to win pucks back on the forecheck relentlessly. He showed the type of speed, energy, puck recovery that Rick Tocchet wants this team to play with, right? That's the identity in terms of the North-South that Tocchet wants from this team. And especially if Höglander can continue to eliminate some of the defensive mistakes and the puck management miscues, which, to his credit, he has made a lot of progress in this season, then he's just going to continue to become a player that fits the system really, really well.
And what Höglander's doing right now is what Tocchet wants to see out of Kuzmenko. But, you know, at the same time, you can't make a player into something that they're not. He's not your traditional north-south guy. Last year, he was much better along the boards and in front of the net. We just haven't seen that this year He's far too often been caught kind of on the perimeter. And like I mentioned earlier, passing up shooting opportunities. And he's just had trouble kind of getting into the inside. And I think partially that's a lot of teams, scouting and actually figuring him out. And, he's much easier to contain now. And if you're not producing, what are you doing?
Yeah, that's the golden question, right? That's the golden question when it comes to Andrei Kuzmenko. Canucks Conversation with Harmon and Quads every weekday at 2 p.m. Be sure to check it out on the Canucks Army YouTube channel. And if you missed it, go check it out on your favorite podcast catcher app.